So my name is Giovanni Mowrey. I have been working with Students for Life of America for the past, this is my third year, so going on my third year with the organization. I grew up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I grew up in a Catholic family, but it wasn't until college that I really encountered God personally in my life, encountered His mercy. It was Divine Mercy Sunday 2017, and I really experienced God's mercy, while in the midst of kind of the college dual lifestyle. As you can imagine, I played soccer as well, so the locker room culture wasn't necessarily getting me, closer to the Lord. So from there, God has really led me on a great adventure, and I just want to, kind of briefly share a little bit. But I did mission work with an organization called Net Ministries prior to joining Students for Life. So I spent 2 years with Net. That's how I met my now wife. We both served as co-supervisors for a year with Net. And when COVID hit is when we left the mission. So I all the missionaries got sent home, and we decided, I decided first I wanted to kind of go back home to my family in Pennsylvania. And then that's when my wife and my now wife and I were able to start dating. So we dated for a few months and decided, we wanted to get engaged. So I asked her to marry me, and then we decided to move down to Naples, Florida. So it was a lot of events happening pretty quickly, but my family had some ties down in Naples, and my first year with Net I spent in Naples. And so fast forward about a year later, I was finishing up a year of teaching faith formation, and I got introduced to this organization called Students for Life. And at this point, my wife was working full-time at a pregnancy center, so she was already working in the pro-life movement. And it really became clear to me at that point that the Lord was kind of inviting us as a family to get more involved in this movement. And what stood out to me, there's a few things that really stood out to me about Students for Life, but how they engage boldly and courageously on the battlegrounds, which are college and high school campuses, and defend the right to life. And while we are a secular organization, we're not afraid to talk about faith when the timing is right. So depending on who we're engaging with, what the conversation might look like could be a little different. So Students for Life, I shared those prayer maps, we call them, and I'll just go, have some notes on my phone. But essentially, we were founded in 2006. Our mission is to recruit, train, and mobilize the pro-life generation to abolish abortion. So we work directly with young people on college and high school campuses throughout the country. We're on over 1,400 campuses now in all 50 states. Our president, who you heard, her name is Kristen Hawkins. She was 20 years old back in 2006 and became the president of Students for Life. Since then, she's grown this organization to now almost 100 full-time staff. And like I said, the presence in all 50 states. How it typically works is we have a regional coordinator in each region of the country. So here in Minnesota, his name's Stephen Schaefer, and he works with all the student groups here in the state of Minnesota as well as Wisconsin. So basically going, training them, working with them giving apologetics trainings, helping them go out on campus, and we have a spring tour, a fall tour that we do every year. So this is kind of the context of who we are as an organization. So what's been happening recently? So this past school year, before this year started, we saw the most free speech issues we've ever had. We had 108 free speech issues where we were either trying to silence on campus, people wanted to vandalize our stuff, or we weren't able to have the same rights as other groups on campus. So that's 108 compared to the year before was about 33. I believe, based on what I've seen in my 3 years here, that we are the most persecuted group on campus by far, just for speaking up for life and defending the right to life of the most vulnerable in the womb. One example, this past spring, our president, Kristen Hawkins, she was at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, and a group of Antifa rioters showed up, as well as pro-choice students, and essentially they were so loud that our president wasn't able to speak, and then eventually they actually got violent. One of our staff members, trying to defend our equipment, got hit with a blowhorn, and basically we had to Kristen, our president, had to be evacuated. But the reason that happened is because they didn't have enough police presence as we requested in advance. And then what happened is we made them have that police presence, and we came back a month later, and Kristen gave the same talk to the group of students that actually wanted to listen. So that's kind of the, a big part of what we do is really being that voice, on campuses. One stat in particular, 88% of all Planned Parenthoods are within 5 miles of a college campus. And so we know the target of the abortion industry is young people. So we want to be where the abortion industry is. So right now in our landscape, the biggest issue that we're encountering is chemical abortion. It's well over half and upwards of 60% of all abortions now are chemical. And when I say chemical abortion, sometimes people are confused. This is not the Plan B contraceptive. This is a 2-pill process that the first pill cuts off basically the food supply to the baby, and the second pill has the mother deliver her child, typically in her bathroom or her shower. And then, typically Planned Parenthood will tell her, flush and don't look. This is quote unquote safe up until 10 weeks gestation, which in many cases now with the regulations that have gotten, basically the FDA no longer requires a woman to have an ultrasound before getting a chemical abortion. So in many cases now we're seeing women that are taking these pills later than they should, or if they have an ectopic pregnancy. And so we've seen a lot of women who have actually died from this chemical abortion pill. So the battleground that we, maybe used to know as the pro-life movement is changing. Brick and mortar abortion facilities, it's still important to be there prayerfully, because a lot of people are still coming there to get the pills. But, we're seeing that we have to be strategic in how we approach this issue. And so our mission is really to change hearts and minds, to win over this culture for life, and to eventually make abortion both unthinkable and unavailable. So we do want to change laws, but we also know that politics is downstream from culture. And so we have to change hearts and minds, and we believe that starts with young people. So one of the cool things about having so many young students involved, we had, I believe, over 18,000 students on all of our groups this past year. They donated over $24 million worth of volunteer service hours to the pro-life movement. And so, yes, we invest into our staff members that train these students, that help them organize, but a lot of everything the students do, we don't have to pay for, which I believe, is, just from a philanthropy perspective, if you're investing into something that gives a good return, I think that is what it does. We also earned over $200 million in free media. And so basically what that means, so for example, the day after Roe was reversed, the front cover of the New York Times was our president as well as students in DC, because we got there early in the morning, and we actually were the first to get there. And so we took the pole position because we knew that when that story goes out, what the national narrative is going to say is, okay, who's there? And what are they doing? And we were able to show young people smiling with tears on their eyes at the result of Roe being reversed. And so a big thing that we want to change that narrative of what is the pro-life movement. It's young people that are joy-filled, that it's not just angry white men, which is the common narrative. So yes, we're seeing more hostility than ever before. But what should our response be? Personally, I think the way we're responding and the way we need to respond as a church, as a movement, is like the apostles did. So what happened in the early church when the apostles were scourged and arrested for their faith? They prayed to the Holy Spirit that He would give them more boldness, more courage to go out and to fight this fight. And that's the same thing we need to have on campuses, in our communities, in our churches, in our families, right? Wherever we're called to defend truth. And so for us, that means, our young people, they're some of the most courageous people I believe that you will find. And I believe God is the one equipping them with this courage that's needed in our present day for a time such as this. So our vision over the next 5 years, we are already on 1,400 campuses. but we realize that we want to continue to grow our presence. We look at, if you look at the college landscape these days, it's really the battleground for culture, and it's pretty much been infested with a culture of death. And so we want to expand our presence on college campuses. We want to have a presence on every single traditional college campus across the nation in the next 5 years. And there's 1,260 of those that we identified that fit the criteria, which is at least 1,000 students, in-person campus life, not a traditional or not a specialized school like a seminary, for example, wouldn't count. And so we currently are on 40% of these 1,260 college campuses. That's not to mention all of our high school groups. Here in Minnesota, we're on 41 groups throughout the state. And I mentioned Stephen Schaefer. He's a regional coordinator that works with all of those groups. And really, there is a great need, because I look at it this way: what happens if we don't achieve this vision, right? Who is on campus defending life? Well, you might say, okay, well, there's Christian groups, there's Catholic, Focus, for example. It's a great organization that's working on campuses, spreading the Catholic faith, discipling young people. But what happens a lot of times with these groups is they're focused on doing what they're specialized to do, that they may not have the opportunity to talk about abortion, or certainly it won't be the top priority. Typically when you're trying to make friends, disciple people, you don't bring up the controversial issues, certainly not right away. And so there's not really, we're the only group on campus that's focused on, how do we have conversations specifically about abortion and to change hearts and minds on this issue, so that when we encounter a young woman on campus that we talk to a year later when she gets pregnant, which in many cases could very well happen, she's going to remember that conversation we had, and she's going to think back and say, oh, what did they tell me? Oh, they told me that there was a pregnancy center nearby that I could go to for help. We know, and from our door knocking nationally, that only about a fourth of people that we talk to actually know about their local pregnancy centers. I think nationally, pregnancy centers outnumber abortion facilities 3-1, but no one knows about them. And so that's the problem. And so that's what we're trying to do on campuses. So I just want to end with kind of a quick story, just to highlight again the impact of what we do. But in Pennsylvania, this past year, our regional coordinator there, her name is Lizzie McNulty. She was giving a talk, a training on chemical abortion. We were going to have our spring tour, which is This is Chemical Abortion. And she was giving this training and talking about, some of the same things I've shared today, how it can lead to injury, infertility among women, and even death. Not to mention the baby that it kills. And there was this young woman that came up to her afterwards and just kind of asking questions. Well, you mentioned these different, resources. I just wanted to kind of learn more. And Lizzie, intuitively kind of felt like there's something here. And she asked, "Are you pregnant?" And to which this young girl says yes. And prior to this talk, this young girl was considering abortion. And so after this talking to Lizzie, she decided that she wanted to keep her baby and to choose life. And so that is what we see, many times throughout campuses, throughout, even the person who we don't know. They might have a change of heart, a change of mind that day, but they might get pregnant 2 years later. We never see them again. But the key is that we're building a culture of life, that we're changing hearts, and that we're really, speaking up for those that can't speak for themselves. So I'll leave a little time for question and answer, but there are 3 ways I really want to ask you to consider being a part of this mission, being a part of this movement. Number 1 is pray. You can always be praying. Pray for certainly mothers and fathers and their preborn children themselves. Pray for our students on campus, and pray for courage to answer whatever God's call is for you. Whether it's speaking up in your church, in your small group, in your family, and just however God leads you. Number 2 would be, if you do know, high school or college age students, whether it's grandkids or friends, please refer them to Students for Life. I'm happy to, take any contact information and stay in touch, but we're looking for more students to either start or join groups that are already in place, whether it's here in Minnesota or as I mentioned, we're in all 50 states. So, and lastly, we do rely on the support of our mission partners across the nation. We wouldn't be able to do this work without our generous supporters. And so, to give you an example, our regional coordinator, Stephen, the yearly cost for us, for him, and for all the work that he does here in Minnesota is about $85,000. So if you look at it, there's 41 groups here in Minnesota. It costs us about $2,000 to uphold those student groups. And so, as you're considering you maybe what you're going to give this year, what you're going to give to any group, just consider Students for Life. I did bring a couple of envelopes if you want to take one with you today and consider a gift to our mission. But I promise you that there are people in this fight, there are young people in this fight, and we're working to change this culture. So, thank you.
Questions for Giovanni?
I don't know how familiar you are. There's 41 campuses, I think, in Minnesota, right?
Right. Yep.
Do you know some of them?
Yeah, so University of St. Thomas, University of Minnesota, University of Minnesota Duluth, I think whatever the college is in Monona, and then maybe St. Mary's, yeah. And then I know there's St. Agnes High School, a good amount of local high schools, I would say. A lot of Catholic schools, also public. I don't have them all memorized, but that's kind of, yeah, those are some. Is there one in particular you were thinking of, or?
Probably UST, and I assumed that
Okay,
was
yeah,
one.
there is a group there, yep.
So you are on secular university, so you're.
Yep, so it's about 50-50 split between private or Christian schools and public, so.
I'm just curious, I mean, because for me, with the chemical movement towards abortion,
Right.
it just, I thought it would be heartbreaking, because it's almost like it's like they made it so easy. I mean, do they usually have to get a prescription, or is it the pharmacist just, gives it, or they just pick it like you get your ibuprofen off the counter? I don't
Yeah.
know, I guess, yeah.
It
So that's something
yeah.
to do. Sorry.
It depends. So, Planned Parenthood, I mean, they have to pay for it, so it costs $500 or whatever, so it's not cheap.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know.
But there's a lot of ways to get it, whether it's now, since the FDA also changed these protocols, pharmacies, so CVS and Walgreens in different states are now also distributing it. It may not be every CVS, but they're on a national scale they are distributing it. So it's relatively easy in this day and age to unfortunately get it, whether it's online or even in states unfortunately that abortion is banned, people can still order the pill online.
So one we could go into a CVS pharmacy and request this particular pill.
Exactly.
And then they don't have, and then they just pay the $500, they cash register, they don't have to talk to a pharmacist or anything like that.
So generally, I've never tried, but the typical, like they might have to have a conversation with a pharmacist, but I don't know exactly what they ask and what they need to know. Typically the restrictions are it's a lot easier to get it now. So I don't know, it might vary pharmacy to pharmacy what they do, but they don't need to get an ultrasound, they don't need to have a doctor examine them. So
This sounds so dangerous.
Yeah.
Given
It
the
is.
depth of what's going on, that you're gonna abort your baby.
it is.
How long has that chemical pill been around?
It was it came actually out of Nazi Germany, doctor in Nazi Germany. In the U.S., it was officially, I believe, early 2000s was when it officially hit the market, but it was around, already globally. So, yes.
A young individual, woman or man, comes into one of the facilities or talks to one of the individuals. You talk the individual out of aborting the child. Is that it?
So what we do?
Yes.
Well, we don't have, we don't have centers like so pregnancy centers. They're different than what we do. We're mostly on campuses talking to students and referring them to pregnancy centers or referring them to other resources. So a lot of what we do is trying to change hearts, either one, prior to them getting pregnant, or two, if they're already pregnant, then hopefully, you know, changing their heart to choose life. So that we're not you know, we don't have a medical model, so we don't have ultrasounds or anything that we do, but we refer those, because there's already plenty of pregnancy centers, but many people don't know about them. So that's what we, you know, one of the things that we try to do is refer those young people.
So the mechanism for this is that like the university grants an office space to your group, and then someone is there, and then do they go give little talks or offer, or, you know, do people come to you and just, you know,
So let's say, let's say University of St. Thomas, so they have a student group, you know, like any other college group on campus, right? So Stephen, who's a regional coordinator, he will work with their president typically and schedule, okay, hey, when can I come give an apologetic session? So that he can come teach them how to have effective conversations with their peers. And then he'll do a training for the tour, and then he'll come and he'll host a tour on campus. So we'll have a fall tour. Currently it's called the What is a Person fall tour. So we're basically talking about what is the preborn, like how do the stage of developments change, and, you know, just talking about the humanity of the preborn child. So that's kind of a little bit of how we do it. Now, the other cool thing is we could take these young people and we can also activate them in the grassroots political campaigns as well. So we can go to state capitals and testify before legislation. A lot of these young people, they love, you know, testifying for you know, different bills. They love door knocking for political elections. And so we have this army that we've amassed, and we can activate them in every state depending what the needs are. So that's another added benefit, I believe.
And I just want to note that I think it's really important. It's great that your group works on apologetics, because sometimes I think that the pro-life movement, when they come across so severe and so judgmental, not one room for any discussion in any shape, manner, or form, we do ourselves in and make ourselves look so, I don't know, headed or something, or well.
Yeah.
And for all that, it certainly is obviously a very spiritual baby, but if the night goes beyond, we have to talk to people in a way where there's a prayer of a chance they could, you know, listen to us.
I just wanna say I'm very grateful for what you're doing, because that's where it begins with our young people. God is really working through you on beginning that conversation of talking about what this is all about in a very positive, powerful way. I thank you for your mission.
It makes me sad to see that these kids are going to a chemical abortion much more readily, because they don't have to face pro-life people at the centers. They can just take a pill at home and nobody has to know. That's really too bad. Because if they at least went to Planned Parenthood, they'd at least see the protesters and people could interact with them. If they don't want that now, they want to just do it themselves.
Yeah, which is, it ends up being more traumatic, because each morning they go back to the scene of the crime, right? So, yes.
At the website, do you have a list of these campuses you're at, or just?
We don't keep a list on our website for confidentiality purposes, but if you have specific groups that you're interested in, you know, I can, you know, get your information. You can reach out to me. I can connect you with Stephen, and you know, if there's specific groups that you're, know people at, or so.
Well, the students know how to get over it.
The students, yes, typically either social media, through our website. We do at times, one of the things with this 5-year vision is to run digital ad campaigns as well. So recruitment ads on, you know, you can geofence the geographic location of the campus, and you can make sure that those are the people that are receiving the ads through, you know, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the places that young people are at these days. So
you're all well versed on all those?
You have to be. You know, I don't use TikTok or Instagram much, but you know, if we're not on those places, then we're going to be missing out on a lot of young people, and it's a battle for their hearts, and you know, this is a spiritual battle, and Satan, you know, he wants to win young people's hearts, and he's doing it through the media is one of the big ways. So we have to be active there. So
Very good, thank you.